Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Codcast.
Oh, he just has to give it back to Haswell. A bit of urgency would be nice from Whitby here, but chip towards the penalty area now. Looking for Farah, header from him, but just wide of the mark from Ben Farah. Lovely ball in from Aaron Haswell, who was patient with the ball, picked the moment, and picked the cross, but Farah can head just wide. So it's
Layton Watts is probably favourite here.
It's Layton Watts going to strike it goalwards. Oh! Layton Watts puts it into the bottom corner. The Seasiders lead a goal to nil. Central free kick from Layton Watts. He curled it over the wall, beyond Spinelli, into the bottom corner. Lovely strike from the Whitby number 10. Prescot 0, Whitby 1.
Just out of reach of the goalkeeper now, wasn't it? He did his best to get across.
Moves it out to Connor Smith. Smith just comes inside with the ball. Then moves it back to Harley Dawson. Flag stays down here. Turns infield. Dawson with the effort. Oh, off the bar! So corner comes in then from Prescott. Foul on the keeper. Clear foul on the keeper. Tipped over by Bland. But clear foul on the keeper. He was pulled to the ground.
That and Farrell and Clark a minute ago.
Yeah,
You know.
he was pulled to the ground, the Whitby goalkeeper. Smith out wide to Dawson. Dawson just delivers it towards the penalty area. Look at the Timon, headed over the bar by Matty Timon. Watts has got to pick it up now. Gets an effort away. It's held by Spinelli. It's into Harley Dawson in the penalty area. Gets shot away off the post. It's Layton Watts. Follows it in. Oh, he's saved. It's a corner to Whitby. Chance for Prescott here. Going to try him from range. Pushed away by Bland. Followed in but wide. He's really heavily hobbling Shane Bland. So forward then, Prescot Cables here. Attacking into space here on the left-hand side. Low ball into the box. Arriving there, it's 1-1. John Murphy got there ahead of Shane Bland and Prescott level. In-swingers was an near post, headed away, but Donaldson's going to get there first. Hits it, oh what a goal that is. 2-1 Prescott. Tony Donaldson. The ball just drops for Layton Watts here on the edge of Prescott's penalty area. Chimalilo in the penalty area, gets away from one, away from two, shot away, oh that was so nearly a beauty.
Oh, really? Just he had a chance earlier.
There's the full-time whistle, Prescott 2, Whitby Town 1. That was the action from Prescot Cables on This Is The Course Whitby Extra with myself, Paul Connolly and Liam Ryder, who joins me now just on the bus back from Prescott. Ultimately a 2-1 defeat and a very disappointing afternoon on the balance of it, Liam.
Yeah, I felt like it had potential to be a good afternoon at one point, that first half performance in particular. As it goes, complete reversal in the second half. Your typical game of two halves, that one there. Whitby did brilliantly in that first half, because a lot of teams look at, at Prescot Cables, and it is a very tough away fixture. The home record pretty much kept up last season, and it's carried into this season as well. So for us to be 1-0 up and play the way we were, in difficult conditions, we were doing well, and then the second half, it was just a complete reversal. Prescott made changes, which, you expect some sort of reaction from them. They were very much below par in the first half. But second half, it was just, we just couldn't really get going again. I had a couple of chances. Donald Chimalilo, the one man, had the biggest chance of note really, but other than that, it was a bit of a struggle there. So disappointing, particularly how it panned out. I think really now it's just, we've got to try and build on it, because we looked solid enough, and you've also got to consider Shane Bland, of course, struggling for a lot of that second half, and those two goals perhaps don't get scored if he's fully fit and can get his positioning correct.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately, we didn't want the defeat. That is the disappointing element of the afternoon. But I mean, equally disappointing and equally worrying as well for Whitby fans and for Gary Liddle and for everybody is the fact that Shane Bland isn't going to be featuring on Tuesday night.
No, I think definitely look at the drawing board and see what we can do for that one, isn't it? I think by his own admission, he's ruled himself out of that one, hasn't he, already? Which says a lot, because Shane this season has had a couple of muscle strains, shall we say, that he's pulled through. A bit of ice has sort of done the job on those, but this one does seem a bit stretched too far. If we had a substitute goalkeeper on the bench, probably would have come off earlier than playing the full 90 there. But you can just see, he couldn't kick. it was making his saving ability, it was reducing that because he just couldn't move properly, really. So yeah, I think we're going to have to look and see what we can do. I think really just hopefully get a decent shot stopper in, someone, preferably if they can kick as well, that'd be a bonus of how we like to play, and he doesn't disrupt us too much because, Shane Bland, we know what he can do. Hopefully, if we can bring someone in, it's a very much like replacement if possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I know talks are ongoing in terms of who Whitby can bring in. Obviously, no timescale yet on Blandy's injury, but you mentioned there obviously about the kicking and what he brings to Whitby's game. It's a key part of what Gary Liddle and Jason Kennedy want to do that's going to be missing there.
Yeah, well, we saw this afternoon at Prescot, didn't we, that sort of sweeper keeper type role that is what Shane Bland enjoys doing, and it's the way we play. And unfortunately, in matches, we're not really sort of equipped to adapt to that, aren't we? So still, you've got him when he's injured, sort of hobbling off his line to make kicks that really you don't want to make, and that's what's going to aggravate an injury even more. So that's what Gary has got to really look at carefully, is someone that can come in and not really just how we like to play. But at the same time, that may not be possible. We may have to just adapt unless we're going to sort of pluck Manuel Neuer out with thin air to come and play for Whitby. It's a very rare sort of role that keepers can play, really. So we'll have to just see what we can bring in first and then work it from there. But hopefully, like I said, the main thing is not too disruptive to us moving forwards.
Yeah. And ultimately, I think the biggest thing about it is whoever you bring in is you ideally want them to have experience at the level, whether it's a little bit or vast experience. You can potentially look at who's on the bench elsewhere. If there's young keepers higher up the divisions that have maybe had a couple of loan spells in and around the level. I think it's important that it needs to be somebody who understands everything that the level's about.
Yeah, well, that's it, isn't it? You've seen it before where keepers come in and think what could go wrong, but they've got to keep the shots out and make some goal kicks, but there's a lot more to it than that, isn't it? You can, like we saw today with Sherman in the first half, get it penned in by physical players. You've got to be prepared for that and adapt to the level well on that front. So if we can get some of the experience, then happy days. But goalkeepers, it's like strikers, and they're very sort of precious position to a lot of clubs that they've only really got sort of the number one. So you may have to look into the academies to see what they have to offer, and if you think someone can step in. So yeah, I know, like you said, talks are ongoing with a couple of options there. So hopefully something can come about ahead of Tuesday's match.
Absolutely, I think it's going to be a quick scramble from Gary Liddle to try and get that one over the line, and Whitby Town boss Connolly with Liam after full time.
Well, Gary, it's finished Prescot Cables 2, Whitby Town 1 this afternoon, and very much a game of two halves out there.
Yeah, exactly that. Really, really frustrating result, really frustrating performance, especially second half. And think of taking both halves individually. First half was excellent. I thought in terms of the away performances, it was an excellent opening half for us. Won the battle, played some nice football when we needed to. We used the extra man in midfield really well, and created a lot of opportunities where you come in at half time and you're thinking, how are we not 2 or 3 up? Totally dominant, and then the message at half time is can you do it again? That's the challenge. Obviously they're going to have to make substitutions, they're going to have to change something, so you're going to have to deal with that aspect. But I just thought, as you said, a game of two halves, and everything we mentioned and everything we'd done first half, we were nowhere near it second half. And decision making for goals, just the all round battles, whether it be individually or collectively, we were second best second half, and it was a really frustrating result, like we said.
And this ground, it seems to really become sort of quite notorious across the league for being one of the toughest away games to come to, and you look at that first half performance and you're probably really happy with what you saw there in terms of the application and the manner we went about it here.
Yeah, it was excellent, and we showed composure, we were aggressive, we put the balls in the right areas. As I mentioned, we had a couple of great opportunities to go 2 and 3 up at half time, and the crossbar kept one out, and good blocks on their part kept them out. But I find that more difficult to take than the league defeat and the Morpeth defeat. To be in such control in that first half and to effectively throw it away through not being able to match them in the second half within just doing the basics of football. Really really disappointing for us, and we're not happy. And all we can do is go again. You know, we've got another tough game on Tuesday, and now we'll hope to rectify it.
Yeah, and just looking at that reaction you got from Prescot in the second half as well, I imagine that's something you probably prepared your lads for. You know, look at the changes are made as well at the break. You're going to expect that, but perhaps how you dealt with it, a bit disappointing there.
Yeah, 100%. Exactly. You know what we said at half time. You know, they. I'm sure Steve won't mind me saying. We were certainly, you know, the better team in the first half, and you know that they were second best. So you know that we knew they had more to give, and they made the substitution at half time, and you know the young lad Donaldson, he caused us some problems. You know, dropping into that midfield, and ultimately scored the winning goal. So. Not disappointed with how we handled the second half, and you know nothing changed on our part. You know, we didn't change anything. We didn't need to change anything coming into the second half. It was just a case of being able to match and do what we did in that first half, and we didn't.
Yeah, another big blow as well. When it was still 1-0 at times, while Shane Bland going down with looked like some sort of muscular injury there, which ultimately restricted his movement, his kicking ability as well. Which, you know, as we all know, that really changes the dynamic of Whitby.
Yeah, it obviously he can't kick, can he? So you can't really use him as an extra player. You can't get goal kicks out of him. You can't defend high lines, knowing that he's struggling to move. So it restricted us a lot. Obviously, in we dealt with it as best we could with it without playing back to him too much. But an injury that compounds the disappointment of the second half.
And the positive, I suppose, you've got to look at in the first half. Layton Watts back in the score sheet, a player who, the last couple of weeks, has had some below par performances, got dropped, of course, in midweek as well. So I'm sure you'll be pleased to see him get that, and hopefully now he can start to kick on again.
Yeah, he was bright late. You know what you're getting from late. You know whether he's on top of his game or he's not. He gives 100%, and he did that today. First half was really good for him. He found some nice pockets, in that little number 10 position, and scored a good goal on the back of it. So I'm quite pleased with late. As much as that, I'm pleased with them all. Especially on the first half performance. But I think everyone in that dressing room, I'm certain know that they can certainly give a lot more based off the second half.
Yeah, and then I don't know if you saw sort of after the match as well, a couple of players sort of having words with each other there. Is that kind of one of those, you think it's because they're sort of showing that care and disappointment that they come away with nothing this afternoon?
Yeah, I didn't see that, but it's probably rolled over in the dressing room. It's a frustrated group. We've just shot away 3 points, from being in a very commanding position. And I'm not saying a game's based off 45 minutes, but I just don't know how we can go from such a dominant 45 into losing the game. I'm aware that a game of football, you need to get through certain periods in the game, and we didn't do that second half, and it's just through the basics of football, which there's no tactical element to basics of football. You've just got to show more hunger and more fight, and Prescot, to be fair to them, showed a lot more of that second half.
Yeah, and then going into Tuesday night up at Hebburn, that one rearranged game, it sort of seems to be typical of Whitby this season that they've gone to grounds like today and lost against sides lower down the table, then gone and put in really good shifts at sides near the top. So I'm sure it'll be interesting to see which sort of version of your side come out in that one.
Yeah, another tough game. Obviously, it carries on the run of games that we're in. We're in a really tough run physically with games, and I'm lucky that I've obviously got a squad where I've been able to swap and change and manage that with certain people, and it'll be no different come Tuesday after have a look at the walking room. But obviously Blandy being the major concern. Other than that, I don't think there's any with any muscular injuries, and probably a few a little bit tired more than anything physically. So want to think about over the next day or two. But no, we will. I'll watch it back, and I'm sure I'll watch it back and be pleased with the first half. But certainly, if we were to pick anything up at Hebburn, who are full of confidence at the moment and flying high, then we'll need to sustain good performances over a 90-minute period.
That was the Whitby Town manager Gary Liddle talking to Liam following the conclusion of the game against Prescot Cables. We sort of spoke at the top of the show. It's kind of been dominated by Shane Bland chat after that, but ultimately, the game of two halves kind of thing, Liam. Whitby, it's so frustrating that we could have been out of sight by half time.
Yeah, well, hit the woodwork a couple of times, didn't we? Got into really good areas. Even in the second half, hit the woodwork at one point when it was still 1-0. So yeah, I feel like it's just sort of very much a theme of Whitby season, isn't it? We've had plenty of chances throughout a lot of games this season and not really come away with anything more. Maybe managed to grind out a 1-0 win. But the flip side is, when you are defending a 1-0, you're always vulnerable, especially going away from home to teams like Prescot, who really can make it hard for you if they get on top. So yeah, that was sort of what we're expecting, and it's just that theme of just not scoring enough goals. Okay, it might be uncomfortable, but if we're 3-0 up at half time, which we easily could have been, then the second half, yes, it's a struggle, but you get through it. That's just the difference. You're always leaving yourself vulnerable with just 1-0 leads to try and defend for the rest of the match.
I think a worrying element as well, Liam, is Whitby's goal scoring. We know we're not scoring enough goals, but since we played Warrington Rylands in the middle of November, so this is nearly 2 months, in the games that we've played since, we scored 1 goal from open play. I mean, it's not enough, is it?
No, I mean, admittedly, we haven't played many matches in that time. That's fair enough, but yeah, and every game this season, barring sort of Warrington Town early on, and Rushall was sort of put 3 goals past. Across the season, I haven't scored enough goals, really, have we? And it says a lot when I think the top scorer is Matty Time with 5 maybe in the league, which isn't enough at this stage of the season, really, for a team that wants to be really competitive in the division. So a lot of other people chipping in. We saw midweek against Ilkeston winning the game from a penalty today, a free kick. Yes, some good attacking play in the build-up, but it's taken a dead ball really to get us a goal. So we first need a bit more invention, don't we? We've got exciting attacking players, but I think that sort of ongoing discussion of how do you get them all in and get them in their favourite positions to work is a different kettle of fish altogether. But I think that's what it's going to be. We need them to click first and foremost, but for the time being, just find a way, whoever does start, whether it's Layton Watts or Dull or Connolly, it kind of is that they both can't play together at the moment. That we just need to find ways to score goals somehow, and we know we can do it. It's just actually getting that to deliver in a competitive match on the pitch.
It was Layton Watts, obviously, who scored the goal. We'll hear from him in just a moment. But I mean, a word for that free kick as well, because we weren't quite sure who was going to take it. Ultimately, it was Layton Watts, and it was a fantastic free kick, Liam. And I thought a positive performance from Layton after a couple of weeks where he's maybe struggled a little bit.
Yeah, well, the free kick itself, he's done well, get it over the wall, which last week against Workington you probably wouldn't do, but you sort of look at it and think, could the keeper have done better? Maybe, but at the same time, I think he's just placed it that far beyond his reach, and with the wall being there, he struggled to see it till late. So that was a really good set piece from him. And I think, the celebration probably sort of trying to make a point there, wasn't it? We know he wasn't too happy with getting dropped in midweek against Ilkeston, but I think that'll do him the world of good just to get that goal, and now we could sort of try and kick on, because I think as well his overall game, he tried to make things happen a bit more than what he has been in recent weeks. So hopefully that can kick him on. It's just a shame for him that his goal wasn't a winning goal, but I'm sure on the whole he'll be happy with how he played, and hopefully now we can really see him take on, because we know what he is capable of when he's really on it.
Absolutely, and I caught up with Layton Watts following the conclusion of the match. Layton, ultimately a pretty agonising defeat for Whitby here at Prescot Cables this afternoon. First of all, your thoughts on the game?
Disappointed. First half, so comfortable. Obviously, probably should have took more of our chances. Could have been 3-0 easily. And then second half, it's a total different game. I think obviously they've put a lot of pressure onto us, but we just haven't answered back with anything. We've kind of just sat down and let them do it. So really frustrating one for us to take. 3 points missed out on, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. For yourself, obviously, you missed out on Tuesday night against Ilkeston in that win, but returned to the side today. Certainly brought plenty of energy and a fantastic free kick. You must be delighted.
Yeah, happy. Obviously, I scored, but it's one of them. It's bittersweet. Obviously, score, but I want the 3 points. You know what I mean? I want to start looking up the table with all the lads, but yeah, it's a bittersweet moment, to be fair.
Yeah, and obviously, we spoke with Gary Liddle, and seemingly, a game of very much 2 halves, wasn't it? Whitby, like you said there, we could have been 2 or 3 up by half time, and I think the ultimate disappointment now is, that record. We've only scored 1 goal from open play since we played Warrington Rylands in the middle of November. It's a worrying habit to be in, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think it's just decisions in the final bit. Obviously, we are playing some good stuff as well, but it's just being ruthless. I think we need to be a lot more ruthless. Every single one of us, me included. But yeah, I just think we do the hard stuff really well at times, and then it's just the easy one, you think, and we overdo it, or we're just not clinical enough. But yeah, the signs obviously are good, but obviously ultimately we've got to be ruthless with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it obviously moves into the second half where, you know, we kind of expected what would happen with that, didn't we? You know, Prescot would come out and, try and get in Whitby's faces and affect the game. And ultimately, you know, they've scored 2 goals and gone on to win the game. But obviously, you know, disappointing moments as well in that we've had to essentially play the second half without Shane Bland, whose distribution up to you guys up there really is a big part of Whitby's game.
Yeah, definitely. It's to be honest, it's absolutely killed us. Blandy's obviously went down injured, and then he said he saw that the first goal they've scored, he comes out and he just collects it, but he can't move off his line. Obviously, couldn't move. And obviously the second one, it's the biggest foul I've ever seen on the keeper by a mile. He's been pushed into his net by one of their lads, and the ref hasn't seen it. But yeah, it has killed us. Obviously, Frankie's 20 yards behind everyone taking goal kicks, so they've just pushed on 10 yards even higher. So it was tough, but I think we've still got to look at ourselves, to be honest, Paul. We've got to be better, and especially when you're 1-0 up, you're expecting them to come out fighting, and we've got to be better to deal with that. So, yeah.
Tough trip on Tuesday night, then Hebburn Town, a trip up there. And again, I guess the beauty of it is that you've got that quick turnaround to go out there and put things right. And generally, Whitby have been better over the course of this season against the teams challenging at the top end rather than at the bottom.
Yeah, definitely. Like you say, got to go again Tuesday, and we've got to turn it around. So we've all got to be better Tuesday night and hopefully get the 3 points so at Hebburn.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Lates.
Cheers, mate.
That was Layton Watts speaking exclusively to the Codcast following full time. So we move on to Tuesday night, Liam, and a bit of a look ahead to that. And it's obviously one we've played Hebburn twice this season, 2 defeats. Since we've played them, they look to be certainly a lot more of a tight knit, a lot more of a cohesive unit who moved the ball quite well. Obviously, probably no coincidence that sort of coincided with Robert Briggs coming into their team and pulling the strings a little bit more.
No, I mean, I feel like we've seen this quite a lot, don't we? They're sometimes the games that bring the best out of Whitby, don't they, when teams do that, because what we've seen of Hebburn in the 2 games at Torbay Express Stadium that we've come out the right end of, they wouldn't say they were necessarily a big footballing team, but now it seems like that has flipped. So, sometimes that brings the best out of us. I think, again, we're probably going to expect a bit of a tricky match with the conditions up there. I know it gets quite heavy up there. But maybe that's where you need a sort of Ilkeston type performance in that one where you can sort of use that to our advantage and just do the dirty work, which I think we did well on Tuesday. So yeah, again, we'll have to see. It'll be a tough match, but don't be surprised if Whitby somehow pull a result out of the bag as long as they've got a decent base to build on from the back.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing there, you talk about potentially pulling a result out of the bag. It's just looking at the record against teams in each half of the table.
Yeah.
The teams below us, I spoke about it on the Codcast on Friday about how you look at the teams below. Prescot added to that list now. I think in 10 games against teams sort of 16th down over, I think we've won 2 games. But then you look at the top end of the table and we've beat the likes of Hensford, we've taken a point from Stockton, obviously...
Two points and drawn both.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So, the record against the teams up there and the performances as well have certainly been a lot better than the teams down at the bottom end of the division, which ultimately is maybe the most frustrating thing about this Whitby side.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They should be sort of your bread and butter, those games against teams below you, but then the games against teams higher up, you naturally you do raise your game to those. But I just can't really work out why we do that, because we know that on paper we've got a very good squad. We're more than capable of being really competitive in this league and doing well towards the top end. Not say win the league as such, but for being up in that top half. So for whatever reason it just doesn't happen. But that's what I mean about Tuesday. It kind of feels like after today's second half performance, we could go there and really make a good fist of it if we get on it with our game. And the same, we've got Hensford away in a couple of weeks as well. There'll be a big crowd there, and it kind of feels that sometimes brings the best out of it. We look at the games against FC United and Manchester in the past, where we've really gone there and properly raised our game in front of 4-figure crowds. So first and foremost, is just getting through that game against Hebburn. We'll have to see what comes of that one. Who's in goal, who can play. Luckily, not too many injuries other than Shane Bland in that one. So, imagine the starting 11 will be pretty much the same. Maybe a couple of tweaks in there. But yeah, the form is a strange one. Can't really work it out really, because you think as well, we can't blame conditions like today where you've got a bit of a difficult surface, because we had it at home midweek against Ilkeston and we found a way to win that one.
Absolutely, yeah. It's of course Tuesday night then for the Seasiders, Hebburn Town. A trip up there. If you can't make it up to South Tyneside, then we'll obviously be live on. This is of course with the extra myself and Liam, with the full 90 minutes of commentary from that one, 7:45 kickoff up there. But yeah, for now it's been a disappointing weekend for the Seasiders. But big thanks to Liam, big thanks to everybody who's listened in, and we'll be back later in the week with another edition of the Codcast. Bye for now.